Hey, you kids, get off my lawn. Unless you're mowing it, let's see your mobile phone for initiative. Do as I say. What's up, a frowny face? Go out and play. Just like your parents did. Just like your parents did. As if your parents did.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Gen Gamers, the podcast that covers all of the weird and wild history of video gaming. I am today not co-host number one. I'm just host Jed. Ashley is not available today due to personal reasons, but I have someone else with me, a very special guest. I'm incredibly excited to have him on the show. I've been a fan of his YouTube channel for years now. I hate having to define life like this, but pre-pandemic. From Wrestling with Gaming on YouTube, Yahel. Welcome.
Hey, great job pronouncing the name.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. And that's very kind of you to say that you've been a fan for years. You know, to prepare for this, I watched my old Philips CDi video today just to kind of refresh my memory because just some stuff I hadn't thought about it in a minute. And I was just like, oh man, this is from 8 years ago. Like, ugh.
I think
flies.
I think we all have that reaction to media that we've done, you know, any kind of art or content that we've done way back when. We look at it and we're like, God, what was I thinking?
Oh yeah. And like the information in the video is good, but like I don't know, man. I was talking very slowly, very, very deliberately, like I had just gotten my lips that day for the first time. It was just it was a little awkward to listen to. It's like the Philips CDi, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, it was very weird, very weird.
So anyway, let's before we dive into the topic today, would you give my listeners some background on who you are, what your YouTube channel is about? Because content creator supporting content creator.
Sure, no, I appreciate it. So yeah, the channel is Wrestling with Gaming. The name came from so I'm a former professional wrestler, and I used to have my wrestling matches from like my indie matches up on my channel. So it was like I just needed to like name it something, and it's very uncreative, like so literal, Wrestling with Gaming. And I just changed it to that once I started doing like gaming videos, which the only reason why I really even got started in it was Norm, the gaming historian. I was a big fan of his. And then one day I was looking for a video on Bleem. And funny enough, he ended up making a video on Bleem, but he didn't have one at the time. And I just didn't find like a good one on YouTube. So, because I wanted to learn about it. It's not like I knew a bunch about Bleem. So I'm like, screw it. You know, I'll make a video about Bleem. And then like did really well and I enjoyed doing it. And I was like, all right, well, let me do another one. And then it just kind of like steamrolled from there. So they're basically like it's like gaming historian type stuff. It's like these like little mini documentaries on video game history stuff. You know, mostly like, you know, old retro stuff.
And it's quite a lot of interesting topics too. I mean, there's things that I've learned from your channel that I didn't even know about. You know, whether it's deep dives into singular games, like your deep dive into Narc was very interesting. The video that got me onto your channel way back when was the video on the Sega VR helmet.
Oh yeah.
I remember wanting that as a young man, and broke my heart that they canceled it. And when your video came out, I flipped out. It was like, oh my God, I can find out more information about where this stupid thing went.
Yeah, dude, the Sega VR helmet's wild. And you know what's funny is like it's been on my mind recently because my next video that I'm currently editing, it's about the Sega Activator, and they kind of wanted both the Sega Activator, like they were both. Well, the Activator debuted at Summer CES '93, and then at Winter CES, it was when like they also brought up the Sega Activator, or maybe I have it backwards. I can't remember, but anyways, Sega was kind of like marketing them in tandem a little bit, and even before the release, to kind of be part of this like VR ecosystem. For those that don't know, like the Activator is like an octagon that you stand in front of and you move your legs and arms, and you know your characters on screen correspond. Like it just mimics like a 3-button controller. but you use your arms and legs, and it has these invisible beams of infrared light to work. Anyway, so yeah, anyways, it's been on my mind a lot. And dude, Sega VR, even though I was like always reading like all the gaming magazines in the 90s and stuff, I'm sure I saw it in the magazine because it was mentioned quite a few times, but it never stuck with me. I just remembered like there was a contest on a Saturday morning cartoon. There was a commercial for a contest, and I think I ended up finding the clip and I put it in that video to like win a Sega VR, which is wild that they were like this close to releasing it, that they had a contest on like, kids TV.
I would love to know what the make good was for the kid who won that contest and did not get the Sega VR.
Probably a Sega activator.
I don't know that I could call that a
which
make.
isn't good.
Yeah, that's not a make good. That's like
good.
It almost feels like a downgrade from not getting anything at all.
Yeah, I mean, the Sega VR was, obviously like I never got to use it, but apparently like it was like a headache machine. So maybe it's for the best that, Sega VR, I guess you might tear like a knee or something using it, but
oh wow.
At least you won't have a headache.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get to the topic at hand today? The reason that I have you on is because in finding you on Blue Sky, in your bio, it mentions that you are an avid, and I believe the word was either unabashed or unapologetic.
Something like that, yeah.
Fan of
maybe both.
An unabashed, unapologetic fan of the Philips CDi.
Yeah, man. I have a video on the CDi, which after I watched it today, I was like, man, I really need to remake this because at that point I had just gotten a CDi and like, I just know a lot more about it and have a lot more context for it now. But yeah, I ended up like, I was like live streaming this Philips CDi like almost every weekend for like years and years. And I never keep my live streams up on the channel. So it was something like if you weren't there, you didn't know. But like just from that and me always like replying to people's tweets when I was active on Twitter back then about the CDi, I just always would work it into a conversation because I do love the machine. I have almost nothing bad to say about it.
That is a bold stance.
Look, there's plenty of other people that will speak ill of it. So,
yeah,
I don't have to do that.
No, and it is refreshing to find someone who doesn't just sit there and bash on the machine. But that being said, I mean, it is a machine that, for better or worse, has gotten a reputation. And I wanted to have you on to discuss the machine for people who don't know, because there's generations of gamers after us who have never heard of the Philips CDi.
Yeah.
My co-host, Ashley, had not heard of it.
Oh, wow.
And she's in her 30s. She has not heard of the Philips CDi. So she was doing all sorts of research, but she was coming in blind. And so that's who I kind of want to do this for, is the people who don't know about it, and give them the information about it and let them make up their own mind. And I figured the best person to do it is someone who's not going to sit there and just, gang stomp it for
I'm going to tell you all the good things about it. Now, to be fair, I'm not like the only CDi lover aficionado that I know of. Historic Nerd, he'll also stream the CDi pretty often, although I don't think he has in a minute, but he also has a YouTube channel. It's the same kind of stuff as I do, actually, like a lot of 3D modeling and animation about video game history for the topics. But yeah, the CDi, I think most people that know about it just know about it from AVGN and his videos on the CDi. I mean, for a long time, that was all I knew about it. I got it. I got the CDi because I wanted to make the CDi video. And at the time, it wasn't, I think they're probably still around the same price, but it was like 200. I think I paid like $220 for my CDi, maybe a little less. And I didn't have to pay shipping because it turned out that the guy lived like an hour from me and we just met halfway, which was great because I was worried about it getting shipping. He threw in a bunch of free games and stuff, so a couple controllers. So it was a good deal as far as CDIs go. And it had the digital video cartridge, which I didn't even know about. I was like, he's like, you'll need this to play the good games. I'm like, okay.
I didn't even know
he was right.
Yeah, I didn't even know about the cartridge until I was doing research for this episode. I was seeing that there's just a whole bunch of games on there, a lot of full motion games that if you don't have it, it won't work. And
yeah. And one of my regrets from watching the video, my CDI video today, was that I didn't really. I mean, I know why I just touched on the Nintendo games, but I really didn't go into like Thunder in Paradise, which is it's not exclusive to the CDI because there is a DOS version, which coincidentally after years of searching, I finally got a copy and I put it up on Internet Archive for anybody that wants to play this game. It runs fine under DOSBox. You do have to do a few things, but I left instructions with it. Anyway, and it's possibly the greatest FMV game of all time. Like, it's fun, it has replayability, it's pick up and play, it has JT from Step by Step in it for some reason. You kind of play as him for half the game, depending on which branching path you end up doing. Hulk Hogan it's based on the TV show Thunder in Paradise that starred Hulk Hogan, and he's not a good actor, and he's just hamming it up. This is about the only thing I can stand to see him in these days. So yeah, it's fun stuff, and I really regret that I didn't get into what the digital video cartridge like does for you. I didn't really like get into like the movies, and I know you mentioned offline you've never like played a CDI, so I'm assuming you've never even seen one really like running, except maybe at a store, you said?
Yeah, I remember where I grew up, there was a store, kind of like Fry's Electronics. It was called Incredible Universe, and they opened up one in about an hour from where I grew up. And like I said, it was a huge pre-Best Buy kind of massive electronics shopping mall in and of itself. And they had one section with video games, and there was a kiosk running with Philips CDi. If I remember correctly, the price tag was $1,099.99.
What a bargain!
Oh yeah, totally. I totally could have convinced my parents to get me that.
At that price, then it must have come with the video cartridge, because the video cartridge, if I remember correctly, it was about $250, something like that. So basically, the cost of another system is a digital video cartridge add-on. And then the CDI, I mean, depending on when it came out, $700-800. I mean, usually it was 700, but so yeah, that one must have had the digital video cartridge with it, which is what let you play really high quality movies, like near DVD quality. Like there's a crap ton of movies. Like the only one I've watched on the CDI is Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country, and it looks phenomenal. The picture quality is great. In Thunder in Paradise, because a digital video cartridge, I mean, it does like MPEG video. It's got like a 32-bit RISC chip in it. It adds a lot to the console, which is already a 16-bit machine. And yeah, like the video quality, like on games like Thunder in Paradise, it's like you're watching it on a TV. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I never got a chance to see that. I couldn't tell you what video games or what was being shown at the time when I saw it. I just remember seeing it and seeing the price tag and going, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. If I can't convince my parents to get me a Neo Geo, I sure as hell can't convince them to get me that.
Fair, but at least CDI games weren't like $200,
True.
So, yeah. Basically, if you buy a Neo Geo and a few games, you've already like paid more than, a CDI and like 10 games.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Value proposition, mom and dad.
Yeah, so basically the more games you buy, the cheaper it is if you were going to get a Neo Geo in that anyway.
So let's talk about what the Philips CDi was, how it started. I know that it started as a format, actually, that Philips and Sony were working together. They announced it all the way back in 1986, and through Lord knows what development hell issues, a machine didn't actually get developed and released until 1991. And
yeah,
from what I've been able to gather from both memory and from reading, they were initially trying to pitch this as sort of a hybrid game console / PC / multimedia device / entertainment center.
Yeah, it's funny. Everything you said is correct. It was announced in 86. It had been, I'm going off memory here, but it had been being developed for a couple years. because Sony and Philips started working on it like I think 2 years after they made the compact after they launched the compact disc. So, but yeah, everything you said is correct as far as I know. And yeah, dude, like everybody was not everybody, but a lot of companies were trying to make these like multimedia boxes for your living room, and games was kind of like an afterthought. It was like Apple was doing it with the Pippin. You had your CD TV to an extent. I mean, I guess maybe you could say the Amiga CD32 when that came out was in a way similar, just because it was basically an Amiga computer, just consoleized. But yeah, and it's kind of interesting that they went with the hey, this is like kind of like a computer for your living room, but it's also kind of like your media player, and it's also kind of a video game like it's kind of a lot of things.
Right.
But it's not really anything in particular, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I wonder if that really kind of shot it in the kneecaps right at the starting gate, because like you said, it was kind of a lot of things, but it wasn't any one thing specifically.
And it's not to say that it doesn't do some of those things well. I mean, like I said, like the movies on the CDi, sorry to cut you off, look phenomenal. So I mean, yeah, it is a great media player, for sure. But they just marketed it as a bunch of things instead of like trying to get that niche, like video enthusiast or whatever, like maybe somebody who doesn't want to buy a bunch of giant laser discs is like, oh, the CDi could be on part of it. It was never marketed that way.
Yeah, and I noticed in doing research, it also, I didn't know this back in the day, they also were marketing it at the corporate level. Like there's just the Philips versions alone, there's like 5-6 different series of them, based upon application, whether it was home use, whether it was corporate use, whether it was industrial use. And it's a varied strategy. I mean, it's taken a very shotgun approach.
Well, yeah, and part of the reason why, like, even though Philips, I think it was like 96 that they announced that they were, so it's released like technically in 1990. Philips announces like in 96 they're going to stop production on it, but they kept supporting it for years and years after, and there was still like software being released, though a lot of it was for like kiosks. Like a lot of people have no idea they've interacted with a Philips CDi like at department store kiosks like in the 90s. Like if you were going to a car dealership and they had like some interactive thing where you could like look at different options for your car, that was probably running on a Philips CDi. So there was a lot of those types of applications out there. There's like a lot of like corporate training software that came out on it. So yeah, just a bunch of like random stuff where I think people like, because most people now, oddly enough, like know this Philips CDi as a quote unquote gaming console. They think it's unsuccessful because it would never like made a big impact in that market, but it was profitable. It was quite successful. Like this thing was around for like a decade. And I'm sure some of these companies like had it in their showrooms or wherever, like even longer running their software.
Right. Yeah. You don't keep something alive for 10 years without actually turning a profit on it.
Yeah. And there's so many models of it out there. Like I remember, I think it was World of CDi, maybe that had like the long list of most of them. But I mean, it's like over a dozen different models out there. And then there's like portable models, like, and it's not like these were coming out like all in 1990 or 91 when it first came out, and then people like stopped making models because it failed. No, people were like coming out with like new models for this thing all throughout its life. It's kind of wild, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't know about the different models and different manufacturers of different models too. They licensed out the architecture to other companies, which kind of reminded me of the business model of 3DO.
Yep.
I kind of wondered if 3DO got that idea from Philips, because they're so similar.
I don't think so, because Trip Hawkins always kind of wanted to, the guy that started EA and then 3DO, he always kind of wanted to have a model where it was, they would be able to not worry about making money on the hardware. That way they could charge a really low licensing fee to developers to make it easier for developers to like make games for the console. So I don't know. If anything, it should have discouraged them, maybe.
Well, Trip Hawkins was not a man easily discouraged.
No. Dude, if you ever do an episode of Trip Hawkins, invite me back on. I love Trip Hawkins.
I have a lot of respect for Trip Hawkins, even though the 3DO didn't exactly do what he wanted it to do. The dude's got balls. I respect him a lot.
He does. And, he was trying to shake things up. And EA was a very different company when he was there.
Yes.
The worst part about the 3DO is that it took Trip away from EA.
Yes. I'm so glad to hear someone else say that. I have maintained for years that EA would be such a different company if Trip Hawkins at least made it through the 90s.
Eventually it would have, he would have left it at some point or sold it to somebody or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have taken longer for EA to become the EA it is today.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, so 3DO, so not 3DO.
CDi, the other
CDi.
three-letter console.
Yes. So midway through the CDi, the Philips CDi's life cycle, they actually pivot hard away from the multimedia stuff, and at least for the consumer model, and say, no, we're actually going to focus as a game console. Why did they do that?
Just because they thought they would make money. I mean, the thing is, like, outside of some there's a lot of edutainment software on it, so you would get like schools that would buy it and that kind of thing. But really, I mean, it just wasn't definitely not in America, at least, entering like the home market in terms of like your average Joe Blow consumer. Nobody was really buying it for watching movies at home. None of the other stuff. Nobody was buying it for their kids so that they could use Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, which I live streamed the CDi version of it a few months back, and it's not in Carta. Let's just say that. Like, the interface is like super clunky. I was pretty surprised because the edutainment stuff on there is usually like pretty well done. But yeah, I mean, it just, they're like, okay, well, let's make some money. I think it probably also helps, that at the time it's like, okay, bits are like a thing. Even though the CDi never pushed itself as a 16-bit or whatever console, I mean, it's running like basically the same CPU as a Genesis. It's just some of the other architecture things aren't set up like the way they are like on a video game console. Like, they don't have like stuff built in necessarily for like, okay, these are going to be your background layers, and then this is how many pixels per character you can have. There's some stuff like that where, if I remember correctly, like for the CDi, like you can't make stuff out of pixels. Everything is like tile maps. So that like adds some complexity to programming, even though horsepower wise, it's like, at least as powerful as like, something like a Genesis or something. I may be off a little there. Nobody crucify me, but
I wonder if that was a part of what kind of hurt the third-party support. Because I noticed in looking at the list of games that were launched or that were available for it, there's like 206 games. The number of games that were not published by Philips is, if it's a dozen, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, so from what I understand, it's a couple things from what I remember from when I was researching. One is the development documentation initially for the CDi wasn't that good, which, funny enough, it's something that we also saw hamper other consoles like the Jaguar, where like they just didn't put together like a good enough dev kit or good enough dev tools, at least for something like gaming. So I'm sure that's part of it. I think like it running on a Motorola 68K, if anything, would have attracted initially third-party developers, because I mean that was the basis of some home computers. That's the basis for the Sega Genesis. It's part of the reason why EA started porting games to the Genesis instead of the Nintendo, because they were used to programming on 68K architecture. So you would think, right, like, oh, this is going to be a thing that's going to be easy. And then they get to it and they're like, wait, what do you mean you don't have anything set up for like proper pixels already, you know. So yeah, I'm sure like a lot of developers looked at it and then were like, ooh, this is going to be more work. But some stuff did get ported to it. I mean, there's a really good looking game called The Apprentice that was ported over from Amiga. I think the sequel was as well, and it's a gorgeous game. It controls well. It's a great platformer. It almost like looks like not the world, but the art style reminds you a little bit of Gex. Like just the way like the art looks, the way the colors look, the roundness of things. Sorry, I forgot what I was even talking about. See, this is a problem. If you get me talking about the CDI, I'll just like ramble on.
The one of the problems being lack of third-party support because of the different the challenges of its architecture, which I also another factor I've wondered as well. That was a really unique time in video game for video games, specifically for consoles, because you had the Saturn, the PlayStation, or the Genesis, depending on whereabouts in the 90s you want to go, the Jaguar, the 3DO, the Super Nintendo was still alive, the N64 was coming out. That's a busy field.
Yeah.
And Philips is like, yeah, sure, we'll jump in the pool too. That's
I think that's why they kind of did it, right? Because obviously like these consoles are announced way ahead of time, right? You know, stuff like the Jaguar was announced way ahead of time, 3DO was announced way ahead of time. So Philips is probably seeing all these companies. Sony's going to release a PlayStation, which Philips already knows about intimately, you know? So they're like, well, hell, we already have a machine that can play games. We don't have to do any development. We've already done it. And it's already CD based, which is what, you know, everyone like most of these new consoles are pushing. Change our marketing strategy, at least in the West, to be about video games, you know? So I think it makes, I can see how somebody brought this up like at a boardroom meeting at Philips, and it makes sense, right, on paper.
Yeah, no, putting it that way, yeah, it does actually. The lead-in time theoretically gives them an advantage.
Right.
Yeah.
You would think, right? And what's real crazy, man, and I just want to say this now before, I know we're not getting to the games yet, but I don't want to forget, there are games that are both on the Philips CDi and the PlayStation. Like Chaos Control. I can't remember which version came out first, but it's a game that's on both the Philips CDi and the PlayStation. And I would argue, and I think its sequel, Solar Crusade, might also be on both. But I would argue that it's better on the Philips CDi because you can use a mouse, and that makes it like much easier to control. It's like one of those. It's kind of like Sylpheed, where like the background is like a pre-rendered FMV thing, and then you've got like sprites, or in this case, like tile maps or whatever, enemies coming at you. So it's like one of those, but because the video quality is so much better on the Philips CDi, and one of the many control types that you can use on the Philips CDi is a really nice mouse, well, it controls great, and it's a joy to play, and it has a lot of like anime-ish cutscenes in it that also look much better on the Philips CDi.
You just hit me in the heart. You compared something to Sylpheed. I love Sylpheed. So
it's like Sylpheed, but more detailed.
Ooh. Oh, that's that's making my hair stand up.
I guess that's not like, you know, it's not hard to be more detailed than Sylpheed, you know. I mean, it looks great, but it's like, you know, there's no texture maps at all, right? From what I remember.
Not that I recall.
Sylpheed at any point.
No.
Yeah, I think it's all flat shaded polygons, I think.
Yeah. Still revolutionary for the time, but definitely something you go back to and you see that this is a building block game.
Sure.
So games, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't really need to give a whole lot of time to the 4 games that everyone knows from the system, because 1, everyone knows them. They've been beaten to death. 2, we're here to try and talk more holistically, and we already know.
I do want to talk about one of them.
Okay, go for it.
None of the Zelda games, although I should mention that there's a spiritual successor to the Zelda games called Jewel of Faramore. There's something else in the title. Oh my! I should know this. I'm in the game. I do a voice in the game, but it's available like on all modern platforms. Whatever console you have, Steam, Switch, whatever. Oh my god! I can't remember the name. It's something the Jewel of Faramore, but it's done like in the same style as the Zelda side-scrolling games. So like the Wand of Gamelon and Link Faces of Evil.
Okay.
So except the controls are really, really good. And the guy that like the developer ended up getting it ended up being released through limited run games, but they ended up getting the artist that did the backgrounds on the Zelda games for the CDI to do backgrounds for this game.
Ooh.
So I mean, like it's got like the whole aesthetic, and the developer, he actually got started by porting those Zelda CDI games to Windows and just added a bunch of life improvements like good controls, for example, being able to save whenever. So anyways, so I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Jewel of Faramore, which I'm like the announce, like if you go to a bonus stage, because of my CDI like fandom, I was asked like if I wanted to like do a voice on the game. I'm like,
Cool.
of course. And they got like the voice actor for Link and somebody else also for the game. But anyway, the game I really want to talk about though is Hotel Mario, because even in my own video when I was watching it today, I'm like, why am I talking about Hotel Mario? Like, I don't say it's terrible, but I just kind of say it's okay, kind of repetitive and boring. But now that I've played Hotel Mario a lot since that video, it's a great game. It's a fun game. It's a really good puzzle platformer. The problem is that that's not what people would expect from Mario. I think if Nintendo released it now, like if it had never come out, and Nintendo released that now as like a game of the, how sometimes like on Switch they'll release like F-Zero 99 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
If they released it as like one of those kind of games, people would love it. People would be like, oh, this is so much fun. And it is. And it controls great, especially if you're using like one of the controllers or the D-pad. It controls great, plays great. And that's really all I wanted to say about it. Hotel Mario is actually, it's hard, but it's really good.
Of the 4 most infamous games, that is the one that I've been intrigued by because it does look relatively decently put together.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo fans, and my co-host and I have said this before on a previous episode, Nintendo loyalists are a little precious with the Nintendo IPs. They hate when things get done differently, and Hotel Mario is different. It's like
right.
It's like Mario 2. It's kind of a left turn from your standard Mario. Even just looking at it, you can tell that. So
yeah, I mean, I would say Hotel Mario. It feels like if I was like a modern, like if I wasn't in my mid 40s and I like just picked it up or whatever and started playing it, I think my reaction would be that it feels like a Mario Party mini game, but maybe like a really long mini game because it has like 99 levels. But to your point, because there's been so many things done with Mario now, to me it doesn't feel as like weird as it maybe did, when it was originally released. But yeah, like you said, I mean, we don't. There's really no need to like spend a bunch of time on those like Nintendo properties. I just wanted to mention those couple things and mention that there was going to be a sequel to Super Mario World on the CDI called Super Mario's Wacky Worlds, and there is an unfinished like alpha demo out there that I've streamed a few times, and it has a bunch of levels, and it has enemies in some of them, but it's basically like a proof of concept from the company that was hired to work on it, and it's using the exact same like sprite artwork from the Super Nintendo Super Mario World. It looks just like it, and shockingly controls just like Super Mario World. I really wish that they would have finished it, because like this to me could have been like their killer app, because dude, I mean it's so strange. It plays exactly like a Super Nintendo Super Mario World game. It looks just like it. It sounds like it. It's crazy, but they didn't. The company that was working on it didn't get to finish. There was a bunch of behind the scenes chicanery. Like they were basically like using the money from that they got to work on that game to work on something else mostly, and they were just like occasionally working on the Mario game to like show Philips something every few months when they had a check-in. That was it.
That's
But like, dude,
certainly a plan.
but their bullshit work was really good. Is the crazy thing. These guys were like accidentally making the best like platformer on the CDI. So
It makes
But,
you
I-
wonder what would have happened if they had actually,
Yeah.
Rather than Hotel Mario, if they had pushed that company that was making Wacky Worlds, and if they had led with that.
would have been great. But have you heard before I get into I know your email was like you want to talk about like what are some good games for the CDI? Have you heard of any good games for the CDI?
The only game that I hear universal praise for, oh God, what is it called now?
Really long title?
No, it's like Crash Burn Cycle.
Okay, Burn Cycle's good, yeah.
Yeah, that's usually the game that I hear considered to be the crown jewel of the library.
Yeah, it's like a 90s, and it was ported to other things too. But yeah, it's like a 90s FMV / point and click adventure, kind of detective puzzle, light action elements kind of game. That's the one that like Philips made the crown jewel of their marketing when they started, when they pivoted to being or at least pivoting to marketing it as a video game console. But I like that game, but there's way better games. I mentioned Thunder in Paradise already. There's a great port of Myst that a lot of people don't know exists on the Philips CDI. Seventh Guest got a port on the Philips CDI. Braindead 13, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace. But as far as like Philips CDI like exclusives, I guess, Mutant Rampage Body Slam is a really good beat 'em up on the Philips CDI. I mean, it's really good. Like it has like it does like a bunch of fun things you wouldn't like expect. Because beat 'em ups, I love beat 'em ups. They're some of my favorite games because they tend to be short, and you can kind of turn your brain off for a little bit. But the problem I have, and a lot of people have with beat 'em ups, it's like they get repetitive, like the enemies, and you end up seeing a lot of same enemies, a lot of pilot swaps. The Mutant Rampage Body Slam has so many different varieties of enemies. It's insane. Like you're just constantly every level seeing like new enemy types. The backgrounds like are really, really well done. You have 3 characters that you can choose and they all play differently and you can tag them in and out. And when you tag them out throughout the game, when you're at a section that you can do that, if you choose to tag them out, the person you tag out, their health goes up while they're like in reserve.
Ooh,
so it gives you like
one.
a little bit of strategy because then you're like, okay, I know I've got like this boss later that the faster character is better for. Let me save her for later and go with like, this other guy who's slower. So yeah, that game is phenomenal. I mentioned Chaos Control. I mean, Hotel Mario. The sequel to Chaos Control is really good too. Solar Crusade. Escape from Cyber-Earth, which is like, I don't know. It's a really difficult game, but there's a really good version on the CDI. I think it might have come out for PlayStation as well. But I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of crap on the CDI as well. But there's a lot of good stuff, man.
What about the variety of the library? Because that's one thing that and again, reporting on CDI usually does take a negative bend. So that could be just what I've seen, but from what game lists I see of it, a lot of it does tend to be FMV style games. So does it have a larger variety? I mean, are there shmups? You said there's a beat 'em up.
There is a shmup. I think there's 2, and I cannot remember their names. I remember one being okay and the other one being not good. Shoot, I can't remember. But I know there's shmups. Funny enough, there's a bunch of like classic games release collections on it, like classic arcade games from the 80s that were released on it. So I know there's a bunch of, so if you want to play like your Centipedes and your Galaxians and that kind of stuff, like there's like collections that were released for that. There's a fighting game, Rise of the Robots, got a release on the Philips CDI.
What didn't they release that on, frankly?
Dude, yeah, exactly. There's two first-person shooters on the CDI, and like nobody ever talks about them. One of them is called Atlantis: The Last Resort, and it basically plays kind of like Wolfenstein. But you got to remember, this is a console that came out in like 1990, right? So it's pretty amazing. But unlike the Super Nintendo version of Wolfenstein, for example, like this actually runs smoothly. There's a decent resolution. The problem is that the artwork in it is just like terrible. Like the walls are all like really ugly. Like the color palette that they picked, like it's kind of like drab. So because of that, it doesn't look great. But as far as like the engine and what it does and how it works great. It's like playing Wolfenstein. There was also as part of the Philips online, because there was like a thing released. I think it was called like Philips World or Philips Online World, something like that. Basically, it was to connect your Philips CDi to the internet. You could do email and like web TV kind of stuff. But one of the things you could also do is play some games against other people, and it was mostly like card games and that kind of stuff. But there was a first-person shooter on there that you could play against other people. I can't remember the name of it, but I believe it came with like the Philips CDi online disc, but I don't know how good it is. I've never been. It's obviously Philips took those servers down a long time ago, so I've never been able to play it. But as far as variety of games, I mentioned The Apprentice, which is a really good platformer. It's not the only one. There's a great version of Tetris on the Philips CDi with a great soundtrack. I think the soundtrack for it was re-released pretty recently on vinyl or something. So there's dozens of us out there. There's dozens of us fans out there clamoring for CDI content. So I mean, yeah, I should have just like pulled out my stack of Philips CDI games so I could go through and tell you like all the variety. You've got your casino games, so card games and that kind of stuff, but that's not exactly like CPU intensive, like blackjack or whatever. There's some games where there's like a football game that I think is like more like a football manager kind of game, which is kind of like, yeah, kind of surprising. Although unless I'm mixing up two different games, I think like they then show you FMV footage of like football games to show you like how things went or something. I think a lot of people or a lot of the reason why CDI games tend to not be good, or a lot of them tend to just be like weird, is because one of the things that Philips required was that every game made for their console had to be able to be used by every controller that they put out. So that's going to change how you treat things as a developer if you have to make sure somebody can use a mouse. Like that beat 'em up I was telling you about, you can play with a mouse. You can pick up the CDI mouse and just continuously like scroll it to like keep moving your character forward.
Oh,
really awkward, but you can do it. You can play it with the light gun. I've done that. Yeah. Oh, I forgot the Philips CDI light gun, dude. This thing, it works on a modern TV. Like nothing special needed. It works on a modern TV. Yes. And it works perfectly on a modern TV.
Oh, that's wild.
Philips future-proofed this thing, man. And again, you can play whatever game you want with it. But again, like if you're going from like, okay, I got to be able to play with the stupid infrared remote control that's got like an analog thumbstick. I got to make sure my game also works with the couple there's like a Gravis gamepad for it. It's a Gravis gamepad. They just like branded it Philips, but it's literally like the Gravis like PC gamepad from the 90s. It's the exact same one. And then like Philips had their own like Sega Genesis style 3-button controller. Also, there's like this Fisher Price like giant like wheel thing, or almost like a rolling. Oh my god, what do you call those? Like
a trackball,
almost like a giant trackball. Yeah, like it literally like almost the size of a bowling ball. So, and there's like a spoon controller that's like wired. So, anyways, when you have to make your game work with all this stuff, it's complicated because you have to make it so your game can be beaten by all this stuff, right?
Right.
So that everybody can see everything. So like that's going to change how it controls. That's going to be like, you might have a mechanic you want to put in the game, but it's like, well, that's really hard to do with the light gun. Fuck, we can't put it in. So, Philips was definitely like shooting themselves in the foot quite a bit.
Just trying to picture playing Myst with the light gun.
I mean, hey, maybe it's the best way.
Hey, it might be. As incongruous as it sounds, it might be.
All those like American laser games like Crime Patrol, like that you would play at the arcade, all those were ported to the Philips CDi as well. And again, you can use any controller with them, even your Fisher-Price trackball.
That's definitely the way I want to play Mad Dog McCree.
That's the best way to play it, my friend.
So that's the console, that's the library, that's but it's also it's a 30-year console, so it's not something that you find in a lot of stores.
Right.
What is the collection market like on that? How easy, if I or one of my listeners were like, hey, this is intriguing, I want to get into Philips CDi hardware.
I'm going to answer that, but I did want to mention, like, there are also, because I'm still hung up on like the different types of games. There's role-playing games. There's like Sims on there, like Civilization style Sims, sim games on there. I mean, any genre you can think of is on there, pretty much. It's kind of wild. But as far as the collecting market today, I mean, I haven't checked prices on eBay for a while, but I mean, I know as of at least a couple years ago, a buddy of mine was able to get a CDi for like $250 or $275, I can't remember, with the digital video cartridge. So I mean, the real, it's easy to find CDIs, like the consoles. The games are harder to find. But the Philips CDi, like it'll take burn games fine.
Oh.
So yeah, like dude, I kind of didn't realize this. I had this here next to me, but these are some of this is like my burned CDI games. Like I don't have the original Hotel Mario or any of the Zelda games because they're super expensive to buy the actual ones, but I've got them burned and they've been running fine for years.
No modding, no hacking, just
nope.
Drop an ISO on a burned CD and go.
Yeah, just use, image burn or whatever, lowest setting possible when you go to burn it. And yeah, just burn it and plop it in, and that's all you got to do. They're not region locked or anything. So that is one thing though. Like the first time, for example, legally purchased Chaos Control. Somehow I didn't notice it was the German version of it. So, you got to make sure you're getting like, something that's got, whatever language
right.
you need or want. But yeah, otherwise, burn whatever game. Collecting wise, like when I go to, I've never, that I can remember right now, at like a retro game store near me seen a CDI game, at least not one that I didn't already have. I've seen them at gaming conventions, which is where I've gotten like a lot of my games from. And I mean, unless it's like a Hotel Mario, one of the Nintendo games, they generally are pretty cheap. I mean, I think maybe the most I've paid, paid $20 for a complete in box Kether, which has like a kind of a more unique slipcase for it. So and it was like in really good condition. But I mean, like $10 is usually what most of the games I've gotten go for. But like, I don't know. There's usually not a lot of them. Like the last convention I went to, which admittedly has been a while since I've been to like a gaming convention, I bought like literally every Philips CDI game there, and I only bought like 12 of them.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And I know I bought every one because I had made some tweets. I was there as a guest, and I put out some tweets about like, hey, I'm here at this convention. If you see a booth at CDI games, let me know. So everybody was letting me know. And then eventually some guy like the next day like tweeted at me like, oh, you're the guy that bought all the CDI games. I can't find anything.
Who knew there were two of us at the convention?
Yeah. I assume it's like me, like some kind of time traveling me, and not like an actual other person.
It's a small but temporal community.
Yeah. I would say if you want to get into the Philips CDI, I mean, just find a console and don't worry too much about like buying games off of eBay. Like if you see a good deal, sure, of course, but just burn the games in the meantime. 'Cause I feel like the Philips CDi, like, I feel like if you get one, you shouldn't get it to collect. You should get it to play it. Because there's some, like, crazy shit on there, man. Like, there's this game called, it's not Ticket to Ride, that's a board game. There's this, like, train game, and it's an FMV game. It's almost like Sewer Shark. Where, like, it's like where you can, like, choose where you go, but it's like an FMV,
Mhm.
Thing that changes. However, this game's a little different. Not only do you get to choose, but it's procedurally generated, depending on how well you're doing, depending on routes you've taken. So no playthrough can ever be the same. Even if you, like, let go of the control and do nothing, it'll still, like, change the path every time. So there's, like, weird little, like, gems and nuggets like that where it's like they at least tried to do something interesting within the confines of, what they had, that people just don't really know about. Stuff I didn't know about when I made my CDI video.
It definitely sounds like a console for people who want to experiment. You're not going to get your standard game, or the standard for. Okay, I take it back. There are shmups, there are RPGs, there are, like you said, there's a little bit of every
Sure.
kind of genre, but there's also a lot of games that are taking big swings.
Right. Or just trying something out because, damn, we have to make this work with what kind of controller, Unfortunately, I think that's also why you get a lot of FMV type games. Not just the fact that it was a novelty, obviously, at the time, but, like that Ticket to Ride game, they're like, okay, well, what's the easy, it's very easy if the game is FMV heavy to have it work with every controller, but they still found a way to make it different than your average FMV game. I know another thing you were interested in is the homebrew scene.
Yes.
There is a homebrew scene.
I expected there to be a homebrew scene. I didn't know how active it was, but, like, when I was typing out the questions, I was hesitant to put it down, and then I remembered seeing a story earlier this year that there have been 4 homebrew games made for the Nuon, and I thought, okay, if the Nuon's got a homebrew scene, the CDI has definitely got to have a homebrew scene.
Yeah. The Nuon, because of its architecture being so close to a DVD, might be easier, but I mean, there's quite a few. I think one of the more recent popular ones is Nobelia, something like that, which I still haven't played it. But I believe it's like a short Zelda-ish RPG. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. I do have 2 homebrew games, and they're not good. But from what I remember, it was like basically like this developer's like first 2 games. So like one of them was like him just like, I think it's like a Frogger clone, like where he's just like doing it to be like, okay, to like learn basically how to
Right.
program. And he's like, okay, this will have like a few different things I can learn. And dude, I think the second one was a shmup. I think it's one of the bad shmups I was thinking of earlier. But there's like some other games that are decent. I know pretty recently, I think last year there was a new FMV game released by a guy called Pirates. Like the game is called Pirates, not the guy. So yeah, there's a homebrew scene out there, and I know that right now. I don't know how public it is yet, but I know there's been. I know it's out there. There's a guy making a Street Fighter 2 port.
Interesting.
And I saw a video, and I mean, of like very, very early. So I mean, it was janky. I would say it was like about the same level of jank as, I don't know if you're familiar with the guy that was porting Mortal Kombat 2 to the 3DO.
No, I had not heard about that.
Well, that's already out, and it's awesome. It's a fantastic port. But in the very early builds of it, of course, it's janky. Characters are moving quite smooth. It's a little slow. So it's kind of like at that stage, but it was like, whoa, like it works. So hopefully he finishes it up. I haven't checked on it in a few months, but yeah, there's a homebrew scene.
Okay, I gotta know. If you don't know the answer, that's okay. But this game is playable on almost everything from smart fridges to pregnancy tests. Doom. Has that been ported?
It hasn't.
I'm shocked.
It could be to an extent. I don't know if you'd be able to like do all the looking up and down. I think you could. I was actually for a long time. I'm friends with MVG, Modern Vintage Gamer, and anytime I saw him or whatever, I would just like at a convention we would drink, and I would just try to convince him to port Doom because I imported a few other things, imported to the CDI. But I've never gotten him drunk enough. Maybe at Retro World Expo this year if he goes. But I think it could. You could certainly do Wolfenstein. I mean, you could reskin one of the 2 FPSs on the CDI now and do Wolfenstein.
Right.
So I believe Doom would be somewhat trivial to do. I'm sure there'd be compromises, of course.
A Doom port with compromises? Wow.
Jed, one thing I did want to mention, though, to people that if they are interested in getting the CDI, and this kind of ties back to the homebrew scene, more than games, there's hardware that's been homebrewed for the CDI that to me is way more important than the games. The Philips CDI controllers, even the, man, I should have taken, I think I've got one back there. I'm wondering if I have it in that box or if I just have the empty box there. But so like the Philips CDI controllers, if you get them like new old stock, although it's very hard to do, like only one of my CDI controllers is new old stock. The D-pad feels okay, feels pretty decent. But if it's like was actually used for years, there's a good chance the D-pad's not going to be great, and it's just not, it's going to feel a little cheap. But there's a myriad of Bluetooth adapters or straight up wired in adapters for you where you can use your Super Nintendo controller, which is usually what I use when I'm playing my CDI. I just plug in a Super Nintendo controller. Actually, I usually use my 8-bit DO wireless Bluetooth. I just put that into it and use it wirelessly. But there are like wireless controllers where you can like anything that has Bluetooth, like, so you can use your PS4 controller or whatever, PS5 controller with the CDI. So it completely changes games. Like suddenly Hotel Mario, you're like, oh shit, he's moving when I'm actually, pressing a button, right? There's like, I don't have to like mash this old, low quality D-pad cushion, that's half rotted away. So that would be what I would recommend for people to invest in. Don't if you buy a CDI and then you've got like another $50 that you want to spend on it, don't spend that $50 on a game. Spend it on one of these adapters for a controller, and you will enjoy, and then just burn whatever game you want, and you will have a much better experience.
That's good to know. I was thinking hardware. I wasn't thinking about the controllers though, and I should have, because their controllers are somewhat notorious. The spoon controller is the one that sticks out in my head most often. But I was, since we're talking about hardware, how easy is it to hook it up to a modern TV?
I mean, it's fine. I mean, depending on which of the many models of the Philips CDI you have, of course. And there are mods out there like RGB mods and HDMI mods and all that kind of stuff. I have 2 Philips CDIs. I have like one of the original, like big 200 series one that looks like a giant VCR. And then I've got a smaller 450, which is like the one that looks like more like a video game console. It's like the size of a Genesis. Maybe a tiny bit bigger. And both of them have composite out, but the 450 model of at least mine also has SCART out. So sometimes I'll just use that, run it through a retro tank or whatever, and play it that way. So it just depends. But I mean, they're very easy to connect. Before, like, I got retro tanks or whatever, I mean, I had like a flat TV that still had composite inputs. So I used to just hook my CDI straight into it, and it was fine.
Nice. All right.
So, yeah, and some of them have like S-Video out as well. So, it just depends. But I've never run into a model that's like where it's difficult. You might need like an adapter because of your TV, but it's pretty easy.
All right. Good to know. We're nearing the end of the episode, so final thoughts on the CDI. Does it deserve the reputation that it has? What's the convincing case for someone who's younger than us or even our age and who just thinks that it's the machine that has the crappy Zelda games on it? What's the pitch?
Everybody that I have forced to play the Philips CDi has, even people that were like, they're like, oh, it's terrible, it's terrible. Once they actually played it, they were like, oh, this isn't, it starts off like this. Oh, this isn't so bad. This isn't as bad as I thought. This is pretty good. Like, it's one of those where, like, once you start playing through a game like Mutant Rampage Body Slam or something, you start to realize, oh, there's good games on here. I'm having a good time. Maybe I should make my own opinions. And there are like ways to emulate it to an extent now. There's been Philips CDi emulation on like Windows for a long time, but it's not very good, and you can't play like digital video cartridge games. So no Thunder in Paradise. However, I know that there's a CDI core that was recently released for the Mister. It still doesn't support digital video cartridge either. But that's something that, is in the pipeline. So hopefully that'll come out. But otherwise, if you're playing like a game that doesn't require the digital video cartridge, and most of them don't, none of those Nintendo games do, for example, you can play it just fine via Mister. I believe those games emulate okay through the Windows emulator too. And there's like a MAME one that, I don't know if the MAME emulator is that great, but so yeah, I mean, as far as selling the Philips CDi, it really is something that you have to like play. A lot of it depends on like what game you play. I would recommend to people, most people want to play like one of the Nintendo games. Start with Hotel Mario. The Zelda games are pretty bad. They're awful. They control badly. They're like fun if you're, I don't know, drunk or high with friends or whatever, hanging out and just want to poke some fun at it. But Hotel Mario is like a reasonably good, well made game. Yeah, I mean, I would say, unlike the Dreamcast that people call underrated all the time, which to me is ridiculous. Like, it's not underrated. People love the Dreamcast. What are you talking about? Who's saying like the Dreamcast sucks?
Right.
It's rated. Okay, it is not underrated, and deservedly so. It's great. But the CDi to me is a legitimately underrated console. Like, there's so much fun to be had on it. There's times that I've literally, like, when, especially early on when I didn't know that much about it and I was sort of live streaming it, I would just go and find whatever random ROMs I could without even reading up on the games and just live stream them for like the first time just to like see what it was. And like, it was shocking to be able to be like, oh, there's good games on here. Occasionally, don't get me wrong, you would get like a lot of crap too. And one time I didn't realize that there was adult content made for the CDi. I found that out on a stream the hard way. No
One
pun
YouTube
intended.
strike later.
Well, thankfully, like it was this game called Girls, 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 which someone had like mislabeled as this game called Girls Club, which was kind of like Dream Phone, like the board game, but like on the Philips CDi. And I put it in and expected to play this like wholesome dating sim kind of game, and instead it's like like these half naked women, and thankfully like the logo was covering them, but I was like, oh my god. But there's a lot of that on the CDi too. So see, it's so versatile. It can help you in your time of need as well.
That is a way to put it. That's a beautiful euphemism.
Yeah, I don't know what controller you want to use, but it'll work. It'll work.
Well, I gotta say, you have definitely shown me a new side of the CDi.
That's good.
I'm definitely curious to try some of the games, to find a way to play a few of them. Yeah, this was educational.
Yeah, it's a great system, man. And I mean, look, it's one of my favorite consoles. Like, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but because of streaming and offline play, I would say I've played more CDi the last like 8 years than I have any other console.
Hey, no judgment. You find fun where you find it.
But man, like it's a good time. It's a good time, and yeah, I would just say people give it a shot. You might be surprised. I'm not saying there's a game on there that's the equivalent of I don't know, a Final Fantasy VI on Super Nintendo or anything. But,
Yeah,
that's something on there.
Yeah, it's not going to replace your PlayStation 5, but it's an addition to.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, how often you post?
So yeah,
Whatever you want.
YouTube. On YouTube, Wrestling with Gaming is a channel. I post videos very infrequently, although I do have a video that I'm like about halfway through editing, so hopefully it'll be out in a couple weeks. And I've got like 4 other videos that are already like at different levels of production. Some of them have like scripts done, some of them are scripted and filmed. So there should be like a litany, at least for me, of content coming out back to back pretty soon. But yeah, man, like my videos now, they just take so long because I do like so much 3D animation, and like learning 3D modeling and animation was the worst thing I could have ever done for my output because I just spend a lot of time doing that stuff now. But yeah, if you want to find me on socials, I do have my Twitter account. It's, what is it, at Wrestles Gaming, but I don't post on there anymore, really. I'm not saying I'll never post on there. I just wanted to limit my screen time. And honestly, it's so weird. Like you'll make a post there and like 75% of the engagement is fake anyway. So it's like, what's the point? Yep. So I am on Blue Sky. Not that I post there all that often, but you can find me there at www.bsky. And that's pretty much it.
All right. If you want to follow the show, we are on Blue Sky at First Gen Gamers Pod. Same thing for Instagram, firstgengamerspod@gmail.com. If you want to harass us with the old-fashioned email, like, share, and subscribe with all your friends. Help us out in the algorithm, all the usual stuff that podcasters and YouTubers say at the end of the show. I want to thank you again so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, both as a fan of your show and just for the fact of exploring a corner of video game history that I think, and not just think, this has proven to me, it's a corner that has not been explored enough.
Yeah. No, dude, thanks for having me. And I really feel after I felt I had to watch my video to like reacquaint myself with some of just like the background and history, I was like, I need to make a new CDI video. Like, it's so weird. I'm like known as a CDI guy, but I just have like one CDI video from 8 years ago. Granted, there's a bunch of streams that aren't available to watch, but so yeah, I thank you because I feel re-inspired to put out like probably like an hour-long video of like in defense of the CDI or something.
I look forward to that. I will carry in my heart that I inspired in a small way.
Thank you.
A new CDI.
So thank you. But I'll have a lot of caveats. Like, okay, just pretend like money doesn't exist.
Infinite time. It'll come out eventually. All right. Thank you again for being on the show. It's been a blast. Until next time, everybody.